Welcome back to another episode of Emerging Voices and Emerging Leaders Program Series. My name is Matt Markin from Cal State San Bernardino, and as always, we got my friend and colleague joining us, and that is...
Hi, friends. I'm Bree Harvey from the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology.
Hey, Bree, and we get to interview someone special today, and that will be Sarah Davis. And Sarah is a higher education administrator with over 15 years of experience advancing student success through strategic academic advising, holistic support, and collaborative leadership. She currently serves as a senior director of advising at Marshall University, where she leads undergraduate, graduate, and athletic advising efforts across a decentralized campus, promoting consistency, equity, and a student-first approach. She oversees university-wide advising strategy and assessment, leads the Academic Advising Council, and also supports implementing data-informed practices that drive student success. Sarah holds a master's degree in communication studies from Marshall University and is an active member of NACADA. As a participant in the Emerging Leaders Program, she is focused on expanding her leadership in the field by contributing to national conversations on advisor development, appreciative advising, and student support policy. Her work emphasizes the intersection of compassionate advising, data analytics, and community building. In addition to her administrative leadership, Sarah teaches for Marshall's Honors College, where she facilitates coursework on leadership, ethics, and civic engagement. She has presented at regional and national conferences on topics ranging from strategic implementation of advising theory to advisor professional development, and she continues to advocate for initiatives that support both students and the professionals who guide them. Sarah, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And, we've heard from your lovely bio here, but we're hoping to hear from you, kind of expanding upon that. What's been your journey, your origin story in higher ed?
Yeah, I'd love to share that. So whenever I came to school here in Marshall, at Marshall, which is in Huntington, West Virginia, I had grown up in a smaller town, Poca, and I thought Huntington was so far away, and my mom totally fed into that, and she got us a hotel before orientation or anything. It turns out it's only like 35, 40 minutes from my house, but to me it was so big. So I came to school here, and my undergraduate degree is in education, and I was working at the mall while I was doing my undergraduate degree, and I started doing some subbing and stuff after I did my student teaching. And it was summertime, so there was no teaching, and I was working at the mall still. And I got a call from the communication studies department, which my undergraduate teaching degree is in oral comm education, so teaching public speaking and theater. And I got a call from the department to come and be a TA. Had not even applied for graduate school. So I was like, okay, sure. So I turned in my application and I came to graduate school. And while I was doing my graduate work, I learned that I like doing things with college students a lot more than middle school and high school students. So that was a big change for me. And I was coaching our forensics team, which is our speech and debate team, with my friend. And that position was going to become a permanent position. So I was really wanting to do that. Well, he had loads more experience than me, so it was definitely going to be his position, not mine, but I still wanted it really bad. And one of my professors and mentors pulled me aside one day and said, don't apply for that job. That job's his for sure. You need to apply for this other job at Marshall. And it was called a student resource specialist. It was a new office on campus. It was called the Student Resource Center. So I did, and I got that job. And that was the start of me working in places that were brand new that hadn't existed on campus before. So the Student Resource Center opened in 2010. That's when I started working here. I was a resource specialist for about 3 years, which was great because you have to know everything. You have to know everybody. And it really let me get super familiar and make friends in every office on campus. And then I moved on to another office that was brand new to Marshall that was opening. It was called Into Marshall. It's a public private partnership that hosts international students for pathway programs and ESL. So then I spent the next 7 years working in international education, doing enrollment management and admissions and progressions type of things for our international partnership. And then that ended, our partnership ended, and I came back to work instead of for the private side for the institution. And this office had never existed. It was after a NACADA consultation. They said, hey, you guys need a director. You don't have a director to bring everything together. So they created this position. I applied for this position, and that's how that came to be. And I've been in this position since March of 2020. We know what else happened in March of 2020. So I came into the office and started this position, I think on the 16th maybe of March, and on the 18th we were all sent home. So not only was it a new position, a new office that had never existed at Marshall before, I was trying to build it during COVID when we were all in isolation. So that really let me harken back to my networking skills from my first job and knowing people and getting connections. And we've had a lot of growth and changes since then, which we can look at or however you guys want to do it. But yeah, that's my origin story and my career path here at Marshall. Marshall has given me everything. I've never worked anywhere else. I've stepped foot on this campus every day since 2003 when I came here as a student, and I love it.
That's awesome. And I love the idea of that like long-term career in one place. I don't think that's as common anymore. And so it's nice to see it. It must be a great place if you've been there for, I mean, student time included, 22 years now. That's amazing.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
Marshall likes to say that it's, not big enough to be everywhere, but small enough that everybody still matters, that we're the Marshall family, that you're one of the herd. So you get a bigger school feel, but you're still at a smaller school. We are a big school in our state. There's only one school bigger than us. It's a good place. It's a family for sure.
That's great. That's so great. I'd love to hear more about how it went starting a new office during the pandemic. I mean, I know that must have been bananas, but starting on March 16th and then the world fell apart 2 days later, and you talked a bit about your networking skills and things like that, but what did you find was really effective in trying to build a new office, a new team and everything virtually? What worked really well?
That was a challenge, which I'm bored if there's not a challenge. So it was okay. But it was interesting because there was a lot of, I think, trepidation surrounding the creation of this new position. There had been a lot of back and forth before I came into this position between other people higher up than me of what are we going to do? Is it going to be centralized? Are we going to have a first year advising? And in the end, we kept everything the same, but we did this position, and all of the lead advisors in all of our colleges now have a dual reporting line to me and to their college. So that was the indecision. That was all decided before I came to be. So there was a little bit of trepidation there. What will happen whenever we have this new position? Who is my real boss? Will I be made to change everything? Will someone be micromanaging things I've done by myself for years? And so I was very aware of that before I came in. And then to cut out the face-to-face connection that you can get, how you can read someone's body language and just feel if the vibes are good or bad. I didn't have that because it was all online. So what did I do? I did everything was online. It had to be. We did online call. I did a lot of calling. I would block an hour every month or every 2 weeks or so with all of my new reports across all the colleges. And a lot of it, they call them now listening tours. I didn't know that phrase then, but that's really what I think I was doing is, what do you like? What do you don't like? What do you want to see? What's your personal goals? How does this work for you? What if what do you want to see changing? And I was just really collecting information. And then another thing that I did was I formed our advising council. We did not have one of those prior to that. And that consists of a lead advisor from every college. It's either their program manager or their student services director. And then a couple of our auxiliary advisors, from our athletics and from our honors college that aren't specific to the colleges. So we formed an advising council, and actually athletics and honors weren't in there that early, but they came later after that's part of the whole story, but they came later. So we would meet once a month for a prolonged amount of time, sometimes 2 hours or so. And it was just all virtual. The very first thing that I did was create a vision and a mission, and I didn't create it. I maybe gave a framework, but really we worked together. And it's about 9 or 10 of us. So that's a lot of I want this, I think that. But that was a really good a unifying tool for us. And then we started creating other documents, advising syllabus, advising yearly checkpoints that were student facing. So I think after about, I don't know, 9, 10, maybe first year of knowing that this was going to be, we worked together process, I like to think that some of that trepidation subsided. But we were still virtual for quite a while. And then once we came back to campus, we were all isolated. We weren't allowed to have in-person meetings. So we were still doing a lot of stuff virtual then.
A lot of challenges. And it's almost also too that you find yourselves in these positions where you're building everything from scratch. Personally, I would not thrive well in doing that. So more power to you for being part of that and liking those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So from your bio, let me understand this. So you lead undergraduate, graduate, and athletic advising, correct?
Yeah.
So where I work, and I would imagine a lot of other institutions, those are typically 3 different departments. Where I work, those are under different divisions, different priorities, different leadership. How do you navigate all that?
Yeah, it's a lot, but it's manageable because I have great colleagues, and a lot of it is collaborative work. The graduate and the athletic advising just came under my wing in the last year. Prior to that, my sole focus was undergraduate advising. But I was asking for more because I want to extend the things that we're doing with undergrad to our graduates, and it was cut off from us doing that, from us working together. So that was a great move, because now things that I'm providing to the undergraduate, I can extend to graduate, which is mostly faculty. They're not, most of my undergraduate staff is staff. That's their full-time job. We have about 35 undergraduate level staff advisors, and we do still have a lot of faculty advisors too, but there are staff in every college now. There wasn't when I started, but there are now. And so that's their full-time job. And I want to extend some of the trainings and perks and community and communication and collaborative aspects up to graduate. So my graduate partner is the provost over graduate studies, Dr. Carl Mummert, and he and I started a professional learning community for graduate advisors last year. And it's been great. It is just a once a month hub where we come and talk about a hot topic, and a lot of it is very foundational, because those are faculty members, those are not staff trained advisors. So we're talking basic advising skills. We're talking, did you know all these campus resources still exist? But it's so great because that might seem like old news if you're an undergraduate advisor, because you get that in your onboarding and you get to know those things, but they've never talked about that. So some of the things I'm going to offer them in the fall are some mental health first aid training. The questions are, what do I do if somebody has a trauma in my office? Because the graduate students still have food insecurity, still have loads of family member, and they're still bringing that to their advisor, but those advisors don't have the same training opportunities that our undergraduate do. So we're extending there. And again, I wouldn't be able to do it without my partner, and he's great. He said, it's just me and you. So we're going to be realistic about what we can do and when we can accomplish it. So our goals for the fall are to roll out a graduate level advising syllabus and a graduate advising handbook, and we've never had those before. So that's really our goals for there, and to duplicate some of the stuff we're doing as far as like unifying documents, just making things more consistent. And then for athletic, they did exist differently. They did not report to our academic affairs, but we wanted to make some moves there. When we shifted that to academic affairs, they came under me. And that's been really exciting and cool, because that's not an area that I had a lot of familiarity with. Also, great collaborative partnerships there with the director of academic services and a couple other folks there that really make stepping into that easy because we work together well and we can build off of each other and set goals for their program. And it also helped me bring the athletic advisors into the fold of our undergraduate advisors. So those people aren't strangers, so you know who you're talking to, so you could have more collaborative partnerships when it comes to what is progress towards degree, what is this, how do I do this? So you know them, and they are part of our community. They're not an outlier.
Yeah, I love the idea of having everybody kind of with the same bucket of knowledge at the end of it. And I think reporting structures really helps with that. Our institution actually just went through something quite similar where we moved all of the academic advisors under one area. And it's been a wild ride. And I know from my own experience, some of the biggest challenges we had weren't even so much with training, but with the change management. And we've always done it this way, or this has not been our role in the past. And getting them on board with, now you need to do this training so that this is your role. Yeah. How are you finding that the buy-in piece from people who have been doing what they would consider their advising role previously and successfully, and now because of a reporting change, their role looks very different? Are you finding there's hesitation? How are you getting the folks actually doing the work on board with the new role?
Sure. I think there maybe was hesitation in the beginning, but I think once they got used to my leadership style, I think the buy-in was there. And I think I can say a lot of that is because I like to do grassroots programming, grassroots training. They're making their own. I am here to help them. I'm very much a servant leader. What do they need? What do you want? What do you need done? And then I'm more of their advocate. This group is missing this. I'm going to go advocate for you and see if I can get that. And I think whenever they got used to the dynamic of the position, how I saw it as a help, as that type of a lead and not more of a top down, I want this. Now, there are times when I have to say, we're doing this. And I know some of you didn't want that. But in the end, this is what we're doing. And I'm not everyone's favorite person that day, and that's okay. But most of the time, I can say, hey, what do you guys want to do? These are the options. And then they can choose which one they want, and I can make that happen. And I think once they got used to me doing that, I think the buy-in was there. So I like to find out what my staff wants, what they're good at, what their personal goals are, and then help them realize that and help those things come to fruition. I think once they got used to that, the buy-in was much easier.
And, you've implemented a lot of targeted advisor training programs. Yeah. You have, I would say a large staff now, having both graduate and athletics in there with you. In today's age now with advisors, what do you feel are maybe, like, from your director mindset, training mindset, what are some skills or mindsets that you think are most crucial for advisors to develop today?
Sure. I think I've been in higher ed long enough to see the evolution of our students' minds, and that the ones we're dealing with now, especially coming out of the pandemic, are not just wanting to be given directions, but they're wanting to go through the process alongside of you and need encouragement as they're doing it. Like, yes, you're doing that right. Yes, click on that. Yes, click on that. So that it's not just enough to tell someone. So I think one of the things that's very important is appreciative mindset. It doesn't have to be your only advising theory or a practice that you use, but as an umbrella, I think that works really well with today's population of students, that they need the positive encouragement, that they need the disarming, the getting to know, the relationship aspect. And a couple of years ago, we had a speaker come to one of our events that said, students and people used to go to multiple resources to get everything that they need. They would get this from church. They would get this from their family. They'd get this from their teacher. They'd get this from their community organization. But students aren't like that now. They find one and they get everything from one. So now I think the other important skill is that all of those networks that you need to tap, because your student's not networking that way, but you are their network, so that how the best way to get the housing problem resolved. And you don't have to know housing because that's not your role, but you have to know how to connect them to that, and that your role is holistic. So if they're having a problem with getting into counseling services, they're not going to meet your academic goals. So you have to know how to do that networking piece for them because you're their network. So then you have to go and find that. So I think those two things are probably the most top two skills I would say advisors need today.
I 100% agree. I feel like we're seeing a lot of that up in Canada too, where students just want to have kind of their one go-to person. And I say to my team a lot, you need to be an expert on 10% of every job.
Yes.
Because you have to know, like you said, you have to know how to get them to counseling, to housing, to financial aid, to all of these people. You can't just send them into the abyss anymore. You have to actually make that connection. And what I'm seeing on my team, at least, is there's a lot more than emotional labor with it as well. And there's it can be exhausting. It can be really hard to be that person for all students. And I would love to hear how you support advisor wellness and resiliency and community building when there's it's such a high responsibility role that's so crucial for the student.
Yeah, I love that question. And advisor burnout is always a hot topic at every conference, at every webinar, at everything. And that's because that's the reality we're facing. You are connecting with the students and you do have to put in a lot of emotional work whenever you're here. So work-life balance is something that I always encourage my teams. I mean, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. So some of them, yes, bought into it right away. And they're like, yes, ma'am, I'm not checking my email this evening, whatever. But some don't, and that's their choice. So, we promote it. But we have had several different learning sessions, training sessions, part of our retreats, et cetera, that were geared to advisor wellness. So making sure you do have a work-life balance, knowing that just because a student is thinking it's an emergency, it's not really an emergency. You don't have to answer your emails at night. You can leave your computer at home whenever you go on vacation. And that's, the tip of the iceberg. The other things that we do to encourage wellness is we try to make work fun. I mean, you're here, so much of your life is work. You should be having a good time while you're there. So we have a couple of events every semester that are not training. They are just fun. And they are to bring people together. It has boosted our collaborative work astronomically. People didn't know each other, and we're decentralized. And we do have a smaller campus, but people were mostly working in their own building. So we have we have at least two, sometimes more. We call them our community building or advisor well-being events every semester. And they might be something like, get together and make a playlist of music for something, or we will bring little pumpkins around fall and people will paint the pumpkins, or we've done one where you make an oil blend, or we've done just potlucks, and they're usually bring your own lunch during lunch hour, because I don't want to take away from their already busy day, but they can just bring their lunch over and we have a shared space and we have a good time. And that is really important to me, that they have that wellness time together. And then every year, we just got done with our fourth one last week. We have a day-long advising retreat, and there are a few learning points during the day, but most of the day is collaborative fun. And it's not all forced participation. Sometimes you just want to be observer. That's fine. But it's mostly just about coming together and promoting wellness and being together and a community spirit. And a lot of times whenever we go to conferences and present about these things that we're doing, the question that we get the most is, how do you get people to come to those? How do you get people to come to your events that you're hosting? And the answer is we like each other. We've made those friendships. We've given time. People want to see each other. People want to come and have that lunch once a month with their friend that works in another building. We had a field day last month Not like potato sack races, more like croquet. But that was just a fun time to be together. And it's kind of nostalgic because you usually end your school year as a child with a field day out in the field playing games. And so we did that. We ended our school year with a field day. So I think the wellness also comes from being able to enjoy each other and the confidence to know that you can rely on someone if you're sending your student over there. So our sessions like that are not just for staff advisors. We also invite advisors from other departments, student support services, our college program for students with autism spectrum disorder, any of our faculty advisors. So people come from other offices too. So you also get those relationships, and that is wellness for you for that day, but that's also confidence and networking for you later whenever something comes up that you need to reach out to someone for.
Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it's almost like a lot of times we get stuck in our office because like we just got to get the work done. We got to see our students, answer these emails. I was just at a retirement party just yesterday, and some of the people that were on campus that I came to, I'm like, I haven't seen you in 3 years, and you're just one building over.
Yeah.
But it's also even like these wellness activities and the networking, even like the person next that you work next to, you may know them as the person that is an advisor, works in your office, but then you go to these events and then it's like, oh, I didn't know you also liked baseball, or you're a sci-fi nerd like me, or whatever it might be. So you have all these great things going on. But I want to ask you, because sometimes it's like, do as I say, not as I do. What do you do for your wellness?
For my personal wellness?
Yes.
Well, I've got 4 kids at home, 2 of my own, 2 of my partners, and my boyfriends. And so our wellness is really whatever our kids want to do. I do like walking. I like sewing. I like to sew stuff. I like baking. So I like, hobbies at home. But mostly whenever our kids want. They're 9, 12, 14, and 15. So they're in all the things. So we just go wherever they go.
So it's something new every day.
Yep.
That's awesome. And I love hearing that, like, we just like to hang out with each other and we take care of ourselves and each other all at the same time. And I think that's such an important part of our role. Like you said, like it is very much a never-ending buzzword at conferences of how do you avoid advisor burnout, and it is a very real thing, and that secondary trauma piece that goes with it too. It's wild. We could do a whole podcast just about advisors and burnout and secondary trauma. Shifting a little bit to NACADA specifically, tell us a bit how you got involved in the professional development side of your role.
Sure. My supervisor was a NACADA advocate from when I started the Student Resource Center. So I was advising only undecided students whenever I was there, but also seeing others as a secondary advisor, not listed, just open door, you come in for a check-in. And she encouraged us to look at different NACADA options and things like that. She made us all members, and it was a staff of 4 or 5. And we went to our first NACADA conference I went to my first NACADA conference in 2010 or 10, I would say. And I think it must have been in one of the Carolinas because it was a NASCAR theme. And we did something about our unit because it was a new office and it was kind of a trend to make student resource centers one-stop shops in that time. So we did a presentation and we won best presentation at the conference. It was a regional one. So we got to go back, I think next year or something like that. I was pregnant, so they went. But it was a really positive experience. So having that positive experience right there on the very first one kind of locked me in. And now when I went to work with International, I was more, I was doing ACRO things, AACRAO, with admissions and registrar work and some NAFSA for international students and student services side. But when I came back to this, I joined back to NACADA. I actually took a online course as a refresher because I had not been, it's real advising adjacent, I would say, but more enrollment management prior to coming back to this. So I wanted to go, review the theories and everything, see what was trending. So I took one of the NACADA courses then. And then we were not all NACADA members on our campus because you can't use state funds to buy memberships in our state in West Virginia. So you couldn't use your normal Marshall budget to be a NACADA member. You had to get like special permission, and your college might have a research corp fund or something like that they could use to sponsor you. But most of our advisors were not NACADA members unless their boss was like, hey, there's some merit in this and we're going to find the money for it. So I worked with our academic affairs team, our assistant provost and our provost, and said, would you guys pay for us and fund that? And they did. So now every advising staff member is a NACADA member and has ability to join the communities. And we have lots of folks that go to conferences and present. I am a strong encourager on that. We probably had 8 or 9 presentations in the last year at regional and national. And I've got 2 young professional ladies who were accepted to go to Las Vegas, who just got their email yesterday that they're going to be sponsored by the technology community. So they're very excited. I'm very proud of that. We like to do a little meetup after the conferences to kind of go over what we learned and what we can share with each other. And then I like to also promote that attendance and presenting by having a meeting prior to the proposals being due. Probably like 8 weeks before proposals are due, where anybody who's interested can come together and we all can come together and say, this is my idea. Does anybody want to join me? And then they have time to kind of brainstorm together as a group. What are the different ideas? Who would like to be with who? And that's been really encouraging and productive because we've had a lot of cross-college collaboration to do those presentations instead of just within their unit. And I also, the question about professional development, right? So I also do 4 professional development trainings on campus every year, internal to Marshall, because not everybody still can go. Our funding is all still college-based, and not all colleges give advisors money, and not everybody likes to travel. Not everybody's like, yes, I'm going to drive 8 hours, because if you're a West Virginia person, you're driving. We're not flyers, we're drivers. So yes, I'm willing to drive 10 hours or I'm not. So not everybody wants to or has the ability to do that. So we also have 4 training and development sessions, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, that are open to all faculty and staff advisors that are Marshall specific. But we've had some guest speakers from our Higher Education Policy Commission and a couple other offices too. So we have internal professional development, and I'm a big promoter of NACADA professional development as well.
Oh no, I like that you do kind of like before and after, like especially like before the proposals are due, because I've talked to people where they're like, I'm interested, but I'm scared to submit a proposal and to get accepted. I don't want to present by myself. And it's like, you don't have to. You could have a panel. You could present with other individuals, people you collaborated with. But I also like at the end, when it's like, well, once the conference is done, what did we learn? What ideas are there? Because I'm just thinking, like, how many ideas do people get when they're at a conference that just kind of get lost in the shuffle or kind of get moved to the side when they get back and there's no reporting back and here's what I learned. Maybe we can take this idea and do something with it. And I guess like kind of going into that, like, you've done a lot within NACADA, attending conferences, presenting, you promote it to a lot of your staff, a lot of individuals at your campus. What got you interested in wanting to apply for the Emerging Leaders Program?
I saw it online and thought it looked interesting. I wanted to see what I think the inside of NACADA was like, and work with people who knew how you can make those connections and how you can be an encourager. And it's kind of like what I said, the advisor is the networker for the students. I wanted to be the networker for my staff. So I wanted to get, how do you do this? What is this? How can I connect with these people? And also wanted to learn for myself. I always want to learn what's new, what's happening, how can I improve these practices, but I want to be able to take the things that I'm learning here and send it down the line. And since I joined ELP, I have 2 staff members that are leading or part of steering committees now. So it's trickling down.
That's awesome. And I love it when it leads to involvement from your team as well. And it's like we were saying earlier, but like do as I do, not just as I say, but do as I do. And I'm involved and you can be involved. And we've kind of asked everybody this question as we've been going through this series, but we're like 9 or 10 months into the first year of this ELP class. What is next? What are you looking at for the next year and a bit out of the program? Are there goals that you're particularly excited about, or things that you're still working on that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, my goals that I formed at the beginning are still probably the same. I want to have higher mastery of athletic advising and graduate advising because those are newer to me. But the one that I would really like to pursue before my 2 years are over is writing something. We've talked about in several of our ELP meetings, if you've presented it, you've wrote it. And I have presented some similar material several times as it's grown and developed here. For us, my presentations about it have grown. So I think that could be interesting, and that's something that I'm going to keep working on over the next year.
Now, you might have someone that listens to this and they're like, I'm very interested in maybe doing the Emerging Leaders Program. I don't know if you remember from the application, but I mean, there was a few questions, but very open-ended questions. What was can you remember like what your process was kind of answering those questions to submit that application?
I think that I don't remember it specifically, but I do remember that I wrote about being Appalachian and the need for Appalachian leaders and connecting with this area of West Virginia. And, we are the only state that's all mountains. We are completely Appalachia here, and that it's all first-gen students, but it's just different opportunities, I think, exist for our students. And it's a different kind of an old school still family mindset. A lot of people don't leave. Like I never left, from 40 minutes down the road. But I wrote a lot about that. I think that I was honest, I want to pursue this. This is why I think that, I want to be a strong female Appalachian leader, and I want to take your knowledge and pass it on. I'm not strong in everything, but I have a lot of staff members that have strengths that complement mine, and I could pass down what I hoped to get from the program to them. And then that was it. Then I was in. And the first meeting, I was very nervous whenever we met in person in Pennsylvania. Yes. But it was great. It was very chill. It was very easy. And I would say to anybody who's looking at it that just go for it, because why not? You're going to get something out of it, something big, something small, and that it's totally worth it. You should do it.
That's awesome. And I love the encouragement for others too. If you had to give a piece of advice to somebody, what would you encourage people to think about when they're applying or include in their application?
I don't know. Something, I guess, what do you always find yourself interested in? What is your passion? Write about that so that the reviewers maybe can see something interesting and unique about you that would make you a standout candidate. I don't know if anybody else wrote they want to be an Appalachian leader, but but I think that's probably what I wrote that was trying to be unique. So I think about what you care about, what you find yourself going to at conferences, what you find yourself reading about, what area you want to grow in, and write about that.
Well, great advice. And this is a nice, wonderful conversation. Learned a lot about you and a lot of tips that I think listeners can gain from this, not just about applying to ELP, but maybe they might hit you up about, hey, our school is going through a similar process of having graduate, undergraduate athletics with us, or hey, we might want to have some tips from about professional development and leadership. So Sarah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Great. Thank you. It's great to be here.